Hey folks, thank you for joining us for another episode of QNAP Live. This is Erick Oliveros with QNAP. And as you know, this is our weekly segment, or may not know, this is our weekly segment that we bring to you. We bring some new topics, new features, cool stuff that we think is worthy of your attention. I want to bring to your attention. And today we'll be talking about QNAP NAS in a studio environment, QNAP NAS for video production. As you know, a couple of years ago, we came out with the Thunderbolt, our first Thunderbolt NAS, the TVS 871T, and we presented that at NAB, at Cinegear, a couple of industry type shows, of production shows, and we've had some really good feedback. We've expanded our line with the Thunderbolt 2 and Thunderbolt 3 lineup now. And today we'll be talking with Hernan Lopez. Hernan's he's been on the team with QNAP for about 7 years now. And he just in the last year or two, he's transitioned into a new position where he deals with a lot of customers hands-on in the industry, the production industry, a lot of studios, a lot of folks that tend to use this NAS in their workflows and stuff. Thank you, Hernan, for joining us.
You're welcome, Eric. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And he'll be talking a little bit about what he sees when he goes out to customers on a shoot, how they use the QNAP NAS in a studio environment and also out on the field. And so tell us, Hernan, a little bit about what for the Thunderbolt NAS, the Thunderbolt lineup, how you see customers using it out on a field, out on a shoot. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, of course. Eric, good question. There's various types of customers we have, and obviously various types of production being done. Luckily, we're based in Southern California, so we do have the ability and the luxury to visit our customers on a local and frequent basis. In particular, Burbank, Hollywood, and Culver City, where a lot of the Hollywood magic happens. So I do have the pleasure of sitting down with a lot of these production companies and trying to figure out exactly what they have. Basically, asking questions: what type of storage have you had in the past?
Mm-hmm.
What do you have in the present? And what are you looking for in the future? And
Right.
so from there, we can kind of figure out what their needs are, right? And then kind of grow from there.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it could be that they need a NAS system that's portable, that's small, and they can take with them on the road, for their shoots.
Right.
So something like that, I'd recommend a NAS system. Here's a good example. This is the 82 ST series, and as you can see, it's a small yet powerful NAS system. It has two Thunderbolt ports, as you can see here, as well as two 10 gig ports, right? So you have the ability with the Thunderbolt to connect here, and it could be simultaneously. So it could be an editor, maybe doing production, post-production, and maybe someone in here that's doing ingestion or bringing up the data into the QNAP, as well as the 10 gig connections, perhaps to another editor, to another machine, and a 10 maybe going out to a 10 gig switch. So very versatile, small, compact, and easy to carry around for productions.
Pretty good for like a dig card.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Perfect for dig cards, yeah.
Gotcha. So you got the best of both worlds. You got NAS that has direct attached connectivity with the Thunderbolt ports. On the flip side, you also, I'm sure you get to see a lot of how studios and editors use the NAS behind the scenes inside of a studio environment. Mm-hmm. Could you tell us about that part of it?
Sure. And it plays in a part also, as I mentioned, the 82 series, the 82 ST series, where perhaps they might bring that in from the field and bring it into their studio. Once in their studio, they can connect it into the switch. From the switch, lots of people can access it. Remember, through the connectivity. And then, as you can see here on the bottom part, it has a gigabit switches as well, right? Gigabit ports connect to a gigabit switch. Now, and again, the great thing is that once they bring it in, and unlike perhaps an external hard drive or
Mm-hmm.
something like that, or a DAS system, several people can connect to it at one time, right? Different editors, different people, and then perhaps this can be going out into a larger QNAP system, perhaps a rack system, scalable, going up to about 1,300 terabytes.
You mentioned external drive. So what benefit would you say for like a QNAP NAS? You can get an external drive. You can plug in your stuff directly. But what benefits? How would you say a NAS is more convenient than just getting an external drive?
Yeah.
Like, what are the benefits?
That's a really good question, and I get that question asked a lot. There's a big difference between an external drive let's say a 10 terabyte drive versus a system like this. I think the most important part is the RAID configuration. As we know, RAID being, the ability to use all of these drives into a large volume, right? So what happens is if you do lose one hard drive, take it out, put in a new one, and continue working. You don't have to shut down the system or anything. Right. And that's the RAID technology, right? And I think that's the most important aspect of it. When you're using let's say an external hard drive, it fails. Right. I mean, that's done. You're in big trouble. You might have to take it to get it recovered. And again, lots of people can access this. Right. Where a DAS system or an external hard drive only has one connection, one person connecting to it.
Have the redundancy.
Right, and they're great. They're great. They serve a really good purpose. Right. But the difference is, again, the QNAP, the ability for several people to utilize it at once.
You got the best of both worlds.
The best of both worlds, exactly, and more, because you're running RAID, you're running Thunderbolt, you're running 10 gig, and you're running gigabit in a safe, nice, compact, powerful system. Yep.
And you mentioned your customer. Who is this ideal for? Like, what type of customers?
That's a good question. We don't have an ideal customer base. We don't. There isn't like. I can't say QNAP is good for this person,
right?
Or this person.
So like the Thunderbolt, it's photography, videography,
right? So it can be even a videographer, a wedding photographer, a wedding videographer, one person who can utilize this. Right. Or it can be a large corporation, a large production house that's utilizing this, or a larger system. They are scalable. They grow. We have different sizes, so different sizes for different people. Right. One thing I do recommend though, and a lot of times I get this question is, you're going to get a great system in QNAP. We know that, but what about the drives? What's going inside of the QNAP? And that's really important. And we highly recommend NAS drives, okay, or above. Obviously, enterprise drives are better, but definitely want to go with something like the Seagate Iron Wolf Pro. That's a NAS quality, NAS grade, and very reliable. Or again, as I mentioned, NAS quality or definitely above.
Right. For NAS, they're designed to spin more. You can buy cheaper drives, desktop drives, but these are specifically for NAS. NAS is going to be on all the time, and these spin a lot. So you mentioned customer types. We want to show you a quick video. Here's an example of one of our customers of how they implement the QNAP NAS in their production workflow. And Hey Guy Media recently used our QNAP NAS. It was the 8-bay Thunderbolt 3 NAS out on a shoot for the 2017 Shell Echo Marathon. And I want to show you a quick video of how they implemented it in their workflow, and check it out.
We are getting ready for the 2017 Shell Eco Marathon in Detroit. Last year, QNAP sent us out a TVS 871T. It was their new Thunderbolt unit, and it worked really well for all of our team to share and collaborate together. This year, QNAP has sent us out their new Thunderbolt NAS unit, which is the TVS 882ST. This unit is much smaller, more compact, and will be easier to travel with. It still has 2 Thunderbolt connections on the back and built-in 10 gig Ethernet. The unit also has 8 drive bays, but these drive bays only accommodate the 2.5-inch size drives, which is one of the reasons it's so much smaller. We're going to be loading it with 8 1 terabyte solid-state drives, both for their speed and their durability when we're traveling.
This is probably the largest event we do all year. We're talking over a dozen cameras, 4, sometimes 5 editors working at once. Last year was really the first year that we had experimented with the QNAP system. And we were so impressed with what we found, the flexibility, the capacity, the speed. We actually went back to QNAP and said, we have an increased workflow. We're going to have more outputs. We are going to have more editors. We are going to have a sizable amount of 4K footage this year. What do you have to offer? And when they came back to us with this system, we couldn't have been happier.
For our workflow, we are going to have one primary ingest station, which will be connected to the QNAP over Thunderbolt. All of our media will be brought in through Adobe's Prelude and then organized onto the QNAP. We will use the second Thunderbolt connection and the 10 gigabit Ethernet connections for the other editors. Having multiple offices and getting everybody to be able to share all the data at the same time is really important to us. Being able to replicate 5 terabytes of data from here at the Eco Marathon back to our New England office gives everyone access. We're able to create more content. It also gives us the security of off-site backup. Our client asked us to provide them with Windows Media transcodes of all of the footage. We set up the QNAP with a full Windows operating system and Adobe Media Encoder, and we're able to transcode everything while the editors were still working, and it didn't slow down our workflow at all.
And that gives us the flexibility that we didn't have before. And the fact that QNAP is able to handle this without missing a beat, it makes this an invaluable tool.
One of the biggest advantages of the TVS 882ST over last year's model was that it is much smaller in size. We were able to travel with it. It was great. We could fit it in a carry-on if we needed to.
The system that we have from QNAP, I don't know that we would choose to use anything else after our experience here this year.
The QNAP has really become a very important part of our workflow. It's the hub of everything we do. Everything goes into it, everyone's connected to it, everyone can access everything they need right away. And it really speeds up everything we do.
So there you have it, folks. That's just a little example of how the QNAP NAS, Thunderbolt NAS, it's an ideal solution for a production environment. I mean, you can carry it out in the field, out on a shoot, on location, and it also has a dual purpose. I mean, it has the network connectivity. Now, you can bring it back to the studio, connect it through the 10 gig ports or the Ethernet ports. So you got multiple people that can collaborate, upload their data, with high-speed transfer speeds, and also you got multiple people that can work on it because of the connectivity at the same time there. Well, that's about all we have for you today. Thank you, Hernan, for joining us.
Welcome.
And thank you guys for tuning in. Check out our next episode. We're going to have a weekly episode of QNAP Live. Again, different topics. We'll get back to you what we're going to be talking about next week. And we hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll catch you next time. Take care.